Black Channel. We're going to do a deep dive into the anti-black strategy that these companies are using and what we're going to do about that. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising on tonight's program. This is the Black Channel. We are the Black Media. I am the Black Authority, and you are listening live to the only historically Black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You're, of course, welcome to join us. We're going to get right into it here tonight because this is something I've been thinking about for a minute here. I've been thinking about this for a minute. Ever since the situation came down with Kyrie Irving, ever since that situation came down, it became painfully obvious and painfully aware of what was going on here. We're living in a day and time where the media landscape over the last 20 years, they put their hooks in from broadcast television and broadcast radio to control the environment going forward. They knew then that the internet was where the majority of the audience eventually would end up at, but more importantly, that the internet, broadcast television and radio would not go away, but the internet would be the farm team that you would use, and then you would hire the folks from the internet if they made a big enough name for themselves. And then what you have are outlets like YouTube, like social media, Instagram, and other places, who play kingmaker. They handpick and select the people who are going to have audiences comparable to what the multi-billion-dollar multinational conglomerates have on broadcast TV and radio. They hand select these people. It is not a meritocracy. It is not a meritocracy. It is an oligarchy. And they choose it based on race primarily. There are a couple of they allowed to slide through. It's primarily based on race. Now, why am I discussing this now? I'm discussing this now, and we're going to review the video here before we get into tonight's program. I'm discussing it now because of the Twitter post / hostage video put up by Jalen Rose. Jalen Rose, in a most despicable act, was made to come back in the middle of a commercial break and apologize for asking why it was that the woman who committed adultery with the NBA coach, Ime Udoka, why it was her name couldn't be mentioned. Well, they took him behind closed doors, apparently, threatened his kneecaps, I imagine, and then sent him right back out there. And boy, he made it very clear real quick. In the middle, they stopped the commercial break so he could come and apologize. A lot of folk gave him a lot of flack about that. Then when the Kyrie Irving situation happens, Jalen doesn't decide to back down, he decides to double down and uses this as opportunity to burnish Black credentials. Just not in any way that any of us would consider to be intelligent by any stretch of the imagination. What Jalen did next, I want to play the audio for you here. It's a couple of minutes long. This is what he had to say.
Let me have a conversation about my blackness for a second.
What is it, man?
In an election year, and also when you have circumstances that Ime Udoka put himself in, circumstances that you have Kyrie Irving put himself in. I've literally seen people trying to politicize the messengers. And I'm one of those people. And let me just say this out loud. It's very important. I did more for this culture before 9 a.m. today than most people going to do in their lifetime.
Oh, okay, just a review of that. He says that he is the U.S. Army of the culture. I don't know if he means sports culture or Black culture, but according to him, he's done more for the culture before the rest of us, more than the rest of us do before 9 a.m. Interesting. I would love to get some details.
Just because I don't think Kyrie should be derailing the next season, just because I don't believe that the lady's name should be exposed based on the fact that the power dynamics are at play and it's more to the Ime situation than most of you guys know. If I'm not Trump,
there's more to the situation than the rest of us know. Why are you not reporting it then, sir? That would be legitimate. Sounds like you're exaggerating. Why did another team hire him if there's another shoe waiting to drop out there? Doesn't sound legitimate here, Mr. Rose.
What is it? If I'm not trumpeting what is low-hanging fruit, that don't make me a sellout. And by the way, I was with the great Sir Charles Barkley last night.
Automatic L.
And we had a 2-hour conversation about this. 2-hour conversation about it.
I can't imagine anybody would be able to talk to Charles Barkley for 2 hours. I can't imagine that he's got coherent thought being stated after 2 hours. I figure after the first 15 minutes, it's all just...
It's in person. A 2-hour conversation with Charles Barkley about this. Just because I don't agree with Kanye or Kyrie, that don't mean that I'm pulling for the man. That means that I don't believe what he's doing is right. That's a fact. And so it's important for people that look like me, Jacoby, in particular, to not politicize what's happening with Kyrie and Ime and Kanye.
You don't even know.
You notice he keeps using that word. It's important that we don't politicize. That tells you that this was a phrase, a word that was given to him by his corporate masters, and that they felt the safest thing he could do is say, well, look here, y'all shouldn't be politicizing this issue. We shouldn't be politicizing blackness. In a system of white supremacy, your race is your political status. In a system of white supremacy, your race is your political status. You can't separate the two. So that's the reason why for him to say something like that is just completely outlandish.
And shoot the messenger. I ain't gonna always ride with somebody just because they black.
How many white executives was that line put in for? I ain't gonna ride for somebody just because they black.
Shut the fuck up.
You don't hear white people say that. You don't hear Jewish people say that. You don't hear Asian people say that. You don't hear Latinos say that. But Negroes in these places, when they panic, they're the first ones to let white people know, I ain't no threat now. Don't look for me to stick with everybody else over there now. So that tells you the type of pressure that he's under.
If I think you're wrong, I don't care what color you are. That's just being real. I ain't about to be following behind nobody that I think is wrong. And let me tell y'all something else. That's just being real.
Who is you talking to?
I ain't about to be following behind nobody that I think is wrong. And let me tell
I ain't about to be following behind nobody I think is wrong. All right.
That's just being real. I ain't about to be following behind nobody that I think is wrong. And let me tell y'all something else. What he doing ain't an act of civil rights. He's not being oppressed.
Jalen Rose has just joined the alt-right.
Let me tell y'all something else. What he doing ain't an act of civil rights. He's not being oppressed.
Now he's talking about Kyrie Irving. He's not talking about Kanye West. He's not talking about Ime Udoka. He's talking about Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving being told as a grown man, there are going to be a list of requirements that you will have to fulfill in order to play basketball in the NBA here. He's sitting here telling you, oh, Kyrie's not being oppressed. He sounds like Tucker Carlson. He sounds like Fox News. That's the reason I'm doing this program tonight. He is a former basketball player. I don't think he still plays. If he does, who cares? Well, a former basketball player, and look at the way he's talking about another basketball player, another black male in the NBA. You're not being oppressed.
Color you are.
He's still
That's just being real.
He's still out of the
I ain't about to be following behind nobody that I think is wrong. And let me tell y'all something else. What he doing ain't an act of civil rights. He's not being oppressed. He ain't being oppressed. He getting $40 million to play basketball this year. He ain't being oppressed.
Do you see the way he raised his voice and got all animated and excited now? Do y'all see that? When we get to the part where he gets to mimic and mirror white society's hostility towards a black male who's making more money than he should be making, that, understand something here. Your income has nothing to do with whether or not you're being oppressed. Oppression is not an income bracket. Oppression is not a tax bracket. Oppression is not a deductible. But take a look at how excited and animated he gets when he starts channeling and mirroring white supremacist society.
Going behind nobody that I think is wrong. And let me tell y'all something else. What he doing ain't an act of civil rights. He's not being oppressed. He ain't being oppressed. He getting $40 million to play basketball this year. He ain't being oppressed. So I just had to say that.
Okay, now you said it. So Jalen is out here, and basically you all just saw the hostage video here. Boy, they must have taken him behind the scenes and let him know he's hanging by a thread. We're going to get into that here on tonight's program, about why that is specifically. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. And if you agree with what you're hearing here tonight, give me a thumbs up in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. We got almost 4,000 people in here in just the first 10 minutes. This is going to be a very important program because I want to walk you through this. I want to walk you through this and walk you through the way in which this works. When you are dealing with something like the Disney Corporation, probably the largest movie media company on earth, if you don't count Netflix, but you can't count them really anymore since their stock has been dropping. So you're dealing with Disney. Disney's a juggernaut. Disney sets agendas, and here's my thing about it. They're using sports, and we've been talking about this for a while. I'm a guy who doesn't really patronize or care about organized sports and sports leagues and things like that. But I do recognize when somebody's using that. So for them, this isn't about playing ball. If it was about playing ball, the only thing they'd be concerned about is what happens on the court. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about a whole bunch of things that did not happen on the court in the place of employment, things that did not happen there. Now they're trying to police your behavior for something that did not happen in their workplace. And why? Why? Because that's what they paid all these billions and billions of dollars to broadcast these sports leagues. And then, probably more important than having the sports leagues being in league and partnership with these sports leagues, probably more important than that is the ability to have commentators. So you watch what happens both on the court and now it has ventured off the court, and they are here to tell you, not to ask you, not to have a conversation, to tell you what you should think. They used to just have commentators. Now they got former athletes, former ball players, fresh off the court, towing the company line to tell you this is what you should believe about what you're seeing both on the court and off. Now, in the era of the internet, however, you thought this was going to democratize things, and under normal circumstances, it might have. Under normal circumstances, that actually might have occurred. But it didn't happen here. At least it hasn't been happening here because, you see, they've already cut you off at the pass. Where would you go to have a conversation like this that is not controlled by the corporate interests and the entities that be in order to oppress and control and suppress Black people. Because it doesn't matter where you go or who the voices are. Case in point, Pat McAfee. I want you to take a look at that subscriber count up there. Over 2 million. Over 2 million subscribers. YouTube pushes his content. He doesn't have to pay for advertising. YouTube pushes his content. They push it. They make sure it doesn't matter if you come on YouTube, whether you like sports or watch sports or not, Pat McAfee is going to show up on your homepage. They are going to push that. It doesn't matter if the only thing you watch is Louis Farrakhan videos, Pat McAfee is going to show up on your homepage. The WWE is going to show up on your homepage. ESPN is going to show up on your homepage. Doesn't matter if you like sports or not. It doesn't matter what your watching history says. They're going to try you and say, hey, would you like to try Pat McAfee? Has nothing to do with an algorithm or your watching habits. They want to make sure that these individuals have as much clout and influence and reach over here as their other puppets do on broadcast and cable television. Make sure that that's already been filled. And they cut their teeth at this a long damn time ago, Joe Rogan. They cut their teeth at that a long time ago. When Joe Rogan was out there, they made sure they boosted him in the algorithm. It seems like a lot of folks don't agree with me tonight. My likes are kind of low on tonight's program, so if I wrap things up early, it's because folks didn't like what I had to say. I'm going to go ahead and breathe a little fire about it anyway, but since folks are having an adverse reaction to it, folks not liking that. If they're not liking it, oh well, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up early, which is fine by me. Joe Rogan, they cut their teeth at boosting him. They wanted to make sure that these are individuals who are getting $100 million. Joe Budden opened up these markets on Spotify. Then they bring in Joe Rogan and say, here, take $100 million. So you see, with that type of transfer of wealth in the real time, transfer of wealth in real time like that, they're putting him so far ahead. He's getting paid more than a lot of professional athletes. They're spotting him so many points with him so far ahead that it would be a Herculean task for you to ever catch up to that. That's the point. You cannot leave this up to chance. Oh, again, anytime you go on YouTube, Joe Rogan is being pushed on you. Whether you want to watch that kind of content or not, you are going to get a steady diet of being solicited to go to Joe Rogan's channel. It's been that way for years. It's been that way for years. First, they did it in broadcast television. They made these people multimillionaires on broadcast TV. Now they brought it to the internet.
It's 2 hours.
Big shout out here to Great Filibuster and big shout out here to Ant Dog 86 and everybody else who's contributed on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. Thank you very much. They're solidifying that now and not by a couple of thousand. And going beyond sports, because that's not what Jalen Rose was doing here. We're going beyond sports. This is about commentating on social events. This is about telling you what to think of social events and using the peer pressure of sports to attempt to influence you. So now we're talking about news reporting. We're talking about news commentary. Joe Rogan is the biggest news commentator in the world right now. Joe Rogan is the biggest news commentator on earth right now. Tons of influence. Tons of influence that has been given to him. It's been given to him by those people. It's not accidental. It's been given to him. Because that is the point. That's always been the point. You cannot leave this up to chance. The next generation of superstars is here. You cannot leave it up to chance. Some individuals you may have never heard of, Matt Walsh, another fellow whose content gets pushed on people, whether you want to see it or not. Whether you wish to see it or not, his content gets pushed on you. Folks want to say that he's a right winger, but his stuff gets pushed on you whether you're in the mood for it or whether you aren't. Even if you don't know who it is. Another one, Tim Pool. Take a look at these numbers. Well over 1 million subscribers. They push it super heavy. This is not about knowing how to work the algorithm. The algorithm changes all the time. You don't know how to, quote, work an algorithm. Tim Pool had folk, did he work at YouTube or he had folk at YouTube? That's not accidental. They are a part of the machine, and their job is to pretend that they are not part of the machine. They are absolutely part of the machine. They're here to be created. Let me tell y'all something, folks. When YouTube spots you 1 million people, I'm talking about legit, they just keep pushing you and pushing you. They got a couple of billion or 3 or 4 billion folk who are subscribers. And when they push your content on people until eventually they can get you over 1 million, just understand they have put you in the same realm as broadcast television. People like Rachel Maddow, they just instantly pushed you until you are in the same arena with those people. And to be clear, this content is not earned, it is pushed. You're not given a choice in the matter. They keep pushing it until it gets 1 million people. That's the whole point. They just keep pushing it until they get 1 million. And it's a formula that they've worked over and over and over and over again. They can make anybody have 1 million viewers. They can also make sure that you don't get very many. They can also make sure that they bury you in it. They can also make sure that your channel is effectively invisible on their website. You have subscribers, but YouTube will not tell them when you're on. They specifically came here for the purposes of seeing your content. They click subscribe, they click notification. YouTube is not notifying them when you're on, and they are also unsubscribing people. See, you've never heard of Joe Rogan complaining about folk being unsubscribed from him. Yeah, he doesn't have that problem. It's not just a YouTube issue. I'm using YouTube as a metaphor. Now, before anybody even attempts to try to say it, sure, are there some black YouTubers who have been allowed to be able to do that? Well, sure there are. But you see, they got to come from the legit world. It can't just be some random white male. Tim Pool is just some random white dude. He doesn't have a pedigree for anything. He doesn't have an expertise in anything. He's just a random fella. Nothing wrong with being a random white dude. Nothing wrong with that at all. The problem is the random white dudes on the internet are pushed by these companies to the point that a random white guy has the same pull and draw as a superstar black male. Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. By the way, Skip and Shannon. Really? All right. Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, undisputed. Their channel has 2.3 million subscribers. 2.3 million. And you got to be a former ball player to get that, and be with a former or current ESPN or Fox, whichever Fox Sports, whichever one they're on. That's what you got to be to get that. Although, to be able to surpass the random white dudes are able to go toe to toe with black folk who come from the world of broadcast television and international sports. They're boosted to the point they can go toe to toe. And in some places, they ain't going toe to toe. They're surpassing them. This is uninterrupted. LeBron James YouTube channel. Here's the YouTube channel that was set up by LeBron James and one of his partners. Take a look at this. Is LeBron damn me James, biggest basketball player on the face of the planet. Biggest basketball player on the face of the planet. And take a look at his numbers. Then take a look at Tim Pool. And then take a look at Matt Walsh. And then take a look at Joe Rogan. And then take a look at Pat McAfee. In our discussions over reparations, I have said for the longest time that when we discuss reparations, we must discuss reparations across the board. YouTube and the Google Corporation owe reparations along with the rest of them. They are headquartered out of California. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the rest of them. All of these Silicon Valley companies that have open, blatant, white supremacist IT terrorists. It's not information technology, it's information terrorists. These companies are hotbeds for information terrorists. They set up algorithms specifically for the purposes of boost. And by the way, that algorithm thing is bullcrap. They just walk in, type a couple of words, and they boost certain channels. They can't leave it up to an algorithm to do it for you. They gotta boost certain channels. Because they want to make sure that's very clear. They want to make sure that's very clear. All of these companies, when I discuss reparations across the board, this is why I said it. The reason why I said it is because that's how you end up in a situation where in the 21st century, you got Jalen Rose sitting on broadcast TV and then going to the internet, bowing and scraping. Manhood completely castrated, if it was ever there to begin with. And then you go to YouTube, random white dude can outrun LeBron James. And it hardly stops there. They have to look toward the future. You got to look towards the future. So you got the Paul, people like the Paul brothers, and I'm just naming a few. You all know there's a lot more names out there than this. I'm just keeping this a Cliff Notes version. Take a look at how long I've been talking now, 28 minutes, and I'm keeping this condensed to a Cliff Notes version. We get to the Paul brothers. All of them boosted. It's not because they have great content. It's because it's like on the radio. They just keep playing it over and over and over again. They just keep playing it. They just keep playing it. They do that because they want you to understand. They want you to do that as well. They know if they keep feeding that to you there that that's what should be happening. That's what should be happening. You're not being allowed to think. You're not being allowed to do that. It's just being fed to you over and over again. It doesn't matter what's going on there as long as they can get those numbers where they need to be. And then what do they do when those numbers are where they need to be? Oh, that's their excuse. You've got black males who are doing everything from parkour to capoeira. And yet YouTube has overlooked their athleticism. YouTube isn't giving them any boost. Instagram isn't giving them any boost. These fellas are out here doing supernatural stuff, and yet this is what you get fed. With a white population that is dropping, and yet the only thing they keep boosting, they go sifting through everything else. Okay, find me a white dude, and let's boost that. That's how you end up with Jalen Rose sitting there, completely defeated, completely neutered. He doesn't have any backup. Hell, he's not backup. That's how you see them. They catch them defeated and get them defeated from the start. This is not natural selection, is what I'm trying to tell you. This is not natural selection. This is rigged. This is not natural selection. This is rigged. And in the conversation, when we discuss reparations and whatnot, let us be very, very clear. These companies are built on generational wealth taken from us in the first place. And now all they're doing is flopping it over and cultivating it and trying to hand it off to other people for the purposes of enriching them. Yes, but also for the purposes of controlling the conversation in white interests. You all do understand, you don't have any black, somebody name for me, who's the black YouTuber who's got 3 million subscribers who talks like the black channel does? Because I can show you the black conservative and Officer Tatum, and we can go down the list. Isn't that very interesting? YouTube with Silicon Valley, they talk about all the right wingers always talk about this, these leftists and left wingers at these computer companies, internet companies, and yet take a look at what happens. And yet take a look at what happens. That's not accidental. That's not accidental. The reason that occurs is because that is engineered. And the goal over the last decade has been to put them so far ahead. The goal has been to put them so far ahead that by the time you take a look at this, they're done. By the time you take a look at that, they're done. There's a reason you keep seeing that. Take a look at it. They've got an army of them. I didn't even put up Ben Shapiro and some of the others. They've got an army of them, individuals you know and individuals you don't. Individuals you know and individuals you don't. And they control the news, and they are being boosted to the levels of having network television numbers right here on YouTube. This is what's going to have to be taken care of. This is what's going to have to be addressed. The status quo is not going to be able to stand. It is going to be important. It is going to be important. It's going to be important that we take back what belongs to us, and what belongs to us is the audience. What belongs to us is the audience. That's the kind of thing I want you to be aware of. The audience belongs to us. The audience belongs to us. The audience is ours. The audience is ours. Now, in the chat room, because this is the kind of thing that regularly occurs. You have contrarian individuals living in fantasy and dream worlds. This will not sound very delicate, but I'm going to say this exactly the way that it is here. First of all, YouTube is not going to promote you unless you're married to a non-black person like that. If you're black, they're not going to promote you unless you're married to a non-black person or with a non-black person. They're not going to promote you. Not unless you make it very clear that, let me go see what's happening. Okay, you ain't really no threat. Okay, got it. If you're really a legitimate threat, they're going to smack that down. The other thing is individuals in here saying names like Philip Scott, for example. Let's be clear, his channel got those numbers well before now, but go take a look at the engagement. You got 1 million subscribers and 5,000 views on a video. So once again, I got to sit here and straighten this out for you all so that you understand you're confused. Folk like to just say things and they just like to respond to things because they don't want to believe the situation is as bad as I'm saying it is. Yes, it's as bad as I'm saying it is. You can sit up here and you can have some type of following, but they're going to make sure that that goes away. They're going to make sure that that goes away. Just understand that. They control your horizontal, they control your vertical. So, yeah, you can go get that count, but don't worry, we can just go ahead and make you invisible in the algorithm. Next thing you know, yeah, you got 1.5 million subscribers and 5,000 views. Meanwhile, your white counterparts don't have that problem. Your white counterparts don't have that problem. As Black people going forward, I want you to understand what we're dealing with here. That these are going to be hills that we are going to have to take because it's reached a point now where they're telling you we're going to get on television. If you rely on us here, we're talking about on television, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be an issue. And no, we're not going to be able to do this somewhere else. We're going to have to do this here. We're going to have to do this here. If you were going to talk about what is owed and what's supposed to be ours, you'll have to do that here. Because right now, what they have done is they've made sure that young white men, now here's the critical point. Do you understand that these are young white men sitting on tens of millions of dollars that they have created them and turned them into broadcast apparatus of their own? These are young white men. While Black folk are out here having to be super sophisticated and super creative. And they're making sure that these individuals are so padded, that they're so packed, they've got everything that they need. That even if you did do a takedown on them, they're already sitting on tens of millions of dollars that they can go pick up and take somewhere else and start the process all over again. That's not an accident when that occurs. That isn't accidental. They flip a switch and say, okay, boom, this person's going to be the next star. This person's going to be the next one in line. This person's going to have that. And by the way, the folk y'all keep naming, they don't sound nothing like me. I asked who's saying what we say. The folks you all keep naming do not do what we do here. So Some of the slow bus kids are running to the front with their crayons in between their teeth. By the way, they don't even do what we do here. They want to make sure that these young white men are way ahead of the game. So they're coming out of their 20s or maybe their 30s at most, fully loaded, fully packed, fully stacked, fully loaded, ready for bear, sitting on millions and millions of dollars in resources. Sitting on millions and millions of dollars of resources. That's not an accident when you see that kind of thing occur. Because you all are talking about the last Joe Rogan. YouTube is trying to create the next Joe Rogan. They're like, hey, we already did that one before. Who's up next? Who's up next? We need to have a battalion of them so that we've completely drowned out everything else. And right now, do you all understand that we are living in an era right now today where your children, if you're somebody 20 years old or younger, you have never known a time in your life that you did not come to the internet for your news on sports. You have always come here. You have never actually gone to the television on a cable TV box and clicked on that to go get your news about sports. You've never done that. You've never done that. That's the point. Your whole life, this is all you've known. And there's a reason for that. So now you've gotten to a point where your kids believe and trust what they see there. Because they don't know anyone. They don't have Walter Cronkite. They don't have that. They don't have that. They don't have a Walter Cronkite anymore to be able to rely on. What's the closest that they've been given? Well, if YouTube has its way, the closest your kids will have is Bowling Roland Martin. That's the closest that you'll have. The closest you'll have is Roland Martin. Now, of course, he doesn't have the sway with the young people, but YouTube keeps promoting him because they're like, well, if there's going to be a Negro in the room talking about this, this will be the one that we promote. This will be the one that we do. It's not an accident. It's never an accident. It is all engineered. So when you see Jalen Rose being given a microphone and a platform to come out and boldly attack black people for not allowing Kyrie Irving to be blackballed and sandbagged, there's a reason for that. This is their strategy for making sure that anti-black voices are papered up and papered up early. It is not enough to give them an audience. They got to be fully funded. I mean, not at 10 times what we get, not at 100 times what we get, not at 1,000 times what we get. They're giving these folks 10,000 and 100,000 times the support and resources that we have. Right off the bat, right off the rip. Their channels are never getting shut down. Their videos are never getting flagged for bogus charges. Notice that's not happening. You notice that that's not happening. They're not sitting up here hitting these channels with bogus claims and bogus flags. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. Meanwhile, over here, you're dodging false, bogus charges and false, bogus flags all the damn time. Even if you wanted to have your own website, Google is going to hide it. Google's going to hide it. So I want you to understand the extent of what you're dealing with here. And you're going to have to take it on where it is. You're not going to be able to destabilize this thing somewhere else. You're going to have to take it on where it is. You got to deal with it right here. The battlefield is here. The battlefield's not somewhere else. So while we have the conversation and the discussion of reparations, we've got to discuss what these companies owe us. While everybody's talking about banks and Harvard and schools like that, excuse me, there are more current offenders. The Google Corporation is one of the current offenders. Let's be very, very clear. A lot of these immigrants they bring over here, they boost their channels real quick, don't they? Shout out Issa Rae. Might get in trouble, Abba and Preach. No shade. Fresh and misfit. Not an accident. Whole bunch of folk here. If you're coming over here and the way in which you are addressing black folk and portraying black folk is not really on the level like that and whatnot, next thing you know, here we go. DJ Academics. All right. All right. Y'all say I'm starting mess. All right. Fine. Yeah, if we do start saying black names, it's like, by the way, there is a certain contingent that they are boosting in the modern era. There actually is, but you got to be a certain type. Got to be a certain type of person that they're going to do that. So that's not accidental. When you see that it's all specific and consistent like this, that ain't an accident. That's policy. That is not accidental. That is policy. That this is what we promote here. So yes, Google, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. I'm like, okay, so sorry to hear about your stock prices falling, but by the way, yeah, you need to drop that off too. You got to drop that off too on account of what you've been doing all this time, and not no little bit either. What you've given them, oh, let me tell you, what we're asking or demanding from the United States government, that's going to be chump change compared to what you will be required to do. On account of the fact that when I take a look at somebody like a Joe Rogan, and y'all have gotten him to the point where he can hundreds of millions of dollars, and then Jake and Logan Paul and Mr. Beast and PewDiePie, who's done one racist thing after another and never been deplatformed, but Louis Farrakhan is? Oh, no. You're going to have to give millions to each of us individually. Whatever you've given them, yeah, you got to pony that up over here too. Folks are not thinking about it and saying it in those terms. I'm telling you all, this is bigger than government. These corporations, in many ways, are bigger, more powerful, and richer than the governments are. We cannot leave them out of the conversation when we discuss crimes against foundationals. We cannot leave them out of the conversation because much of their money comes from the legacy media environments, who in turn got that money from systemic racism against us. So the money just came from one place to another. It's generational wealth that's gotten into broadcast media and now into internet media. When you track the money, it's like everything else. Like, oh my goodness, what the hell do you know? The money came over here. From the slave fields to fiber optic. From the field slaves to fiber optic. It's not a coincidence, and it's not a trick of your imagination. It's not a trick of your imagination. They know what they're doing. So when we have this conversation now, just understand I'm putting this in context for you, because if Joe Rogan doesn't talk about these things, it is hard to get the message out there, to get out there at the same magnitude. It doesn't occur. Joe Rogan said one word, ivermectin, and turned the entire pandemic upside damn me down. Joe Rogan said one word, ivermectin, one word, and brought CNN to their knees. Had their doctor, Sanjay Gupta, sitting up here doing the perp walk on Joe's program, bowing and scraping. Joe Rogan just had to say one word and actually stand firm. He just had to say one thing and stand firm. And Jalen Rose, on the other hand, is over here apologizing and then coming back and explaining and defending that. Joe Rogan stood firm. Joe Rogan standing firm on that. That is not accidental. That is not accidental. They've got him so padded up and papered up now. That's it. That's it. Now, I talked about this a long time ago, 6 or 7 years ago, when Disney was doing their layoffs and ESPN and whatnot. And you all remember Grantland and other things like that. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly come over here, but boy, it's going to take a lot to make that work, because if you're not white or if you're not favored, they're going to bury you. They're going to bury you. Nobody gets through this thing accidentally. You are being favored somewhere. Because if they don't favor you, they can literally erase you. They can literally hide you. Which is why I brought you all point after point, case after case, page after page, so you can understand that. This is an anti-black money strategy. Case in point here, could you imagine what the conversation would be like if you actually had articulate, intelligent, informed, and at least adequately financed black folk? I wouldn't have a problem with this kind of commentary if you had them. If you had them. But they would have to continue to get that kind of support. They've given it to Shannon Sharp, and we all see what Shannon Sharp been saying. He talking like Jalen Rose. They give it to Shannon Sharp, but Shannon Sharp has been tap dancing for a while. So you see, even if you were a professional athlete, a former professional athlete, you want to start your own channel and whatnot, just understand, you're not going to get the same boost in the system that Shannon's going to get, if you get any boost at all, which is very unlikely. Take a look at what you have to say, and then YouTube and the suspected white supremacists who are in charge of the algorithm, next thing you know, they start doing little things like that. That's not accidental. That is not accidental. But could you imagine if you had individuals like that and their channels were unmolested? The national conversation would go radically differently. And I have talked to some, by the way. Don't want to tell or anything like that, but I've talked to some professional athletes and some former professional athletes. Not going to say any names, but I've talked to some of them. They are articulate, they are well-informed, they're wonky as you want to be. But they're like, Jason, we can't really do that. They're like, Jason, we can't really do that. We don't have that kind of support and that kind of backing. What you're talking about, yes, that is exactly what's occurring. We don't have that kind of backing. We can go out there and say that, but we'll get watched 1 or 2 times, but we won't have the ongoing support to be able to maintain that. So I'm just letting you all know, I've talked to athletes, former athletes, who confirm everything I'm saying, which is why I can say this with such confidence. I've talked to them. Y'all have heard a couple of them call me up. Not just one, a few of them have called me up. And yeah, it's true. They know. They know that, yeah, I can speak some truth, but you better not say too much. You better not become that dude. You become that dude who's known as being that guy who talks about things that way on a daily basis. We ain't giving you that. We're not going to give you a platform that empowers black people. You can acknowledge the crimes we commit against black people, but you're not going to turn this into a platform for addressing that. Because you see, if it were, things would sound different a whole damn long time ago. Jason, what do you mean? We would have had college athletes getting paid a long damn time ago. It ain't new. It ain't new. We would have had college athletes getting paid a long damn time ago if we had had these things done differently then. Ed O'Banion shouldn't have been the only one all this damn time. If you had had somebody who was allowed to have the same kind of platform that they even give somebody like a Tim Pool, if you were allowed to have those kind of numbers and unmolested on a regular basis, you'd have been had your NCAA athletes paid a long damn time ago. They'd have been gotten paid because you know these guys are not going to do that. They don't have any problem with that. They have no problem with a white commentator getting paid more than the damn basketball players, football players, fighters, or anything else out there. As far as they're concerned, that's what it's supposed to be. That's what it's supposed to be. In their minds. So there's a reason why they don't want this particular discussion and these particular conversations taking place. They don't want that happening. They have deliberately tried to squelch and suppress that at every level. So once again here, when Jalen the Joke Rose sits up here and talks about folk not being oppressed, talking about folk not being oppressed, I want y'all to understand something. Like in the case of a Kyrie Irving right now, Kyrie Irving he's under the gun. Kyrie is under the gun. They're talking about he's getting paid $40 million. Y'all, we watching black men get marched into court, it seems like damn near every year. All they do is sit up here and some white woman comes popping up out of nowhere, and next thing you know, you spending $10 million to clear your name. And these fellas know this. A lot of these guys, if I can say this, I'm not putting nobody's business out there, but I will tell you from firsthand knowledge of this. You all don't understand. Most of these professional athletes, they are living in mortal fear that one of these groupies, one of these jump offs, or in many cases, just some random fan is going to say something, make an allegation. Next thing you know, he's in the fight of his life. They just fired a shot across the bow of Ime Udoka. He didn't do anything wrong or criminal. Most of these fellas out there are in mortal fear because they know how easy it is to gin up. All they got to do is find one of these chicks and some ambulance chasing lawyer will take her in the back room and say, hey, look here, you know, if you really think about it, it really was sexual assault. If you really think about it, it really was sexual assault. Yeah, I know. You say he kind of brushed up against you. Are you sure that's what happened? Are you sure that was his elbow or were those his fingers? Are you sure that was his backpack or was that his arm? Are you sure? And you have a number of these athletes, man, they are in mortal fear. They've got agents and managers, many of them they cannot trust. Now, I'm going a little bit further than I should be right now. Not going to say any names, but some of you and your friends of mine, but you got folk around you that you can't really trust. I don't give a damn how long he's been there. I don't give a damn how long you know him from college. You met this person in college. Okay, he been there the whole time. I'm like, dude, you can't trust him. If the charges come down, if somebody says something, he's going to be the first one to tell you, here, just pay him off, knowing full damn well that's going to freaking wipe you out. That's going to wipe you out. And you got folk giving them advice to do that. That it doesn't matter what it costs, go ahead and pay that. It doesn't matter what it costs, go ahead and pay that. In the chat room, what in the world, Keisha's kids? Your mother doesn't want you to watch me. Does your mama work for ESPN? Really? Keisha's kids? All right, send me an email. Send me an email. Keisha's kids, Keisha Bottom B's kids, go ahead and send me an email. I'll see if we can hook you up with that Xbox Live subscription. We'll see if we can hook you up with that. We ain't gonna let your mama stop the train. We ain't gonna let your mama stop it. We rolling. We rolling. So Keisha kids, I got you. I got you. Xbox One, year-long subscription on deck. Send me over that email. But as I was saying, most of these professional athletes, you all don't know, they're living under the gun. And they're in mortal fear that that kind of thing will occur. That these folk can do it for any reason or no reason at all. They can do it for any reason or no reason whatsoever. Which brings me to Tiffany Cross. Yes, this is germane to what we're discussing tonight. This brings me to Tiffany Cross and old Bowling Ball Martin, apoplectic, bug-eyed, diabetes is messing with him. Boy, old Roland finally addressed Tiffany Cross and her firing at MSNBC, and he tried to do his best impersonation of speaking truth to power. The first time he's done that, it was, well, he did the best that he could do. Be that as it may, I want to address that now. This is going to be in depth here. You're going to want to hear this. Roland Martin is going to be addressing Tiffany Cross's firing, and this dovetails with what I'm talking about here tonight. How these media companies have an anti-Black strategy, and she walked herself off into that one. But then again, it really wouldn't matter what she did. So she really just sold her soul and made enemies out of Black men for absolutely no damn reason. However, you're going to want to hear this. Before we do, we're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. So General Locks, thank you very much. Anton English, thank you very much. Keisha Kids, we got you. And of course, thank you very much for that as well. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, Bowling Ball, Tiffany Cross, the media complex, the money power game. This is the Black Channel.
Hey, I'm Marcus. For a while, I walked around with this empty feeling inside. I had a full-time job, but not in the field I wanted to be. But then I came across this book where it was like, the title was just for me, Guide to Being Black in IT. I read the book and the author took me through scenarios and gave me tips. I sat down and read it and enrolled into Canal. After I got done, I took advice in the book, practiced in the labs, and got certified. Then I literally got up and applied for a position with the company I've been looking at for a while and got the job. Thanks to that book, I worked my job with confidence. If you're looking to get into IT or even in the field, now this is a must-read book. Go to www.beingblackInIT.com.
I am Black first. I am empowered. I am on code. I am motivated. I am a proud foundational. My name is Maria Sellers, and nothing will come between us. Buy the sci-fi novel, Nothing Will Come Between Us. Order today at Amazon and Google Play. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com. Our story, our family.
Join 6zeros.net, a forum built to discuss all things relevant to Black people. On our forum, the check doesn't mean you're famous. It means your Blackness has been verified by our staff. We also have premium merchandise with same-day shipping on most orders. And when you're ready for some dope content, check out the 0 Hour Bar. Don't just sign up. I'm not going to really about it. Want to go somewhere private just for us? Great. Meet me at 6zeros.net. Black hole, black opera.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And we are discussing the anti-Black money strategy. You got to put money where your mouths are. None other than Bowling Bob Martin. And you all knew I was going to keep tabs on this. Bowling Ball looking like he just woke up with a 10-year-old shirt. Got on his program, late to the damn party, trying to defend Tiffany Cross against MSNBC. I want y'all to hear basically the only really irrelevant comments we made. Very little of this man ever says is ever assumedly even partly relevant. But Roland had some choice words, maybe from previous experience. Sure. This is what he had to say.
Their programming, and let me just tell you what's probably going to end up happening. And so go ahead and write it down. MSNBC is paying Jen Psaki a whole bunch of money to come host a show there at MSNBC. And remember, they got rid of Amin's show and Zerlina Maxwell's show on the Peacock channel.
Okay, for those of you who don't remember, Jen Psaki was White House press secretary, showing the incestuous nature of the media political industrial complex. So she's been hired at MSNBC. For those of you who've forgotten, remember she's talking about Zerlina Maxwell, one of these wild-eyed radical Black feminists, abort all your babies, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what he's starting talking about. So he's talking about why Tiffany got fired, and he's saying, well, this is his prediction of what's going to happen from a very specious source, but this is what he's predicting is going to occur.
See what's probably going to end up happening. And so go ahead and write it down. MSNBC is paying Jen Psaki a whole bunch of money to come host a show there at MSNBC. And remember, they got rid of Amin's show and Zerlina Maxwell's show on the Peacock channel, okay? Because they're saving money. They're giving Rachel Maddow $30 million to host a show once a week, all right? To keep it from going to Sirius XM or CNN or somewhere else. So
is he pocket watching? Does that qualify as pocket watching? All right.
Maxwell's show on the Peacock channel, okay? Because they're saving money. They're giving Rachel Maddow $30 million to host a show once a week, all right? To keep it from going to Sirius XM or CNN or somewhere else. So here's what's going to happen. They're going to probably move Jen Psaki into Jonathan Capehart's slot on Sunday morning. They're probably going to move Jonathan Capehart in the Tiffany slot on Saturday. Watch it happen. Write it down. It's going to happen. That's what you're actually dealing with there.
We'll see how good of a fortune teller he is then. So, okay, we'll see if that's what happens or if you're wrong about this like you are about so much else.
Sunday morning. They're probably going to move Jonathan Capehart in the Tiffany slot on Saturday. Watch it happen. Write it down. It's going to happen. That's what you're actually dealing with there. But really what you're dealing with here, and this is what I keep telling y'all about mainstream media. I spent 6 years at CNN. And when people come up to me like, man, I wish you were about the mainstream media, I said, let me explain something to you. The only person who can fire Roland Martin is God. That's the hierarchy here. I'm the CEO, I'm the owner. God is the only person above me. When you work in that environment, ratings don't matter. They will fire you if they want to. They will choose not to resign you if they choose to.
Well, that would have been interesting if you had been saying those kind of things when they actually still had you on the air, Roland. Roland's breaking news now. Back when he was trying to get a job, it was all about ratings. Now he's saying ratings don't matter. I'm very glad that he's admitting that this is about a white agenda and not about ratings. Would have been nice if you had been saying those kind of things when you actually were standing there, wouldn't it, Roland? Because they fired y'all's asses anyway. At least you could have gone out with your boots on, or in your case, with your donuts in hand.
You work in that environment, ratings don't matter. They will fire you if they want to. They will choose not to resign you if they choose to. And that's what happened here. And so I said this, and I tweeted this. Rashida Jones, who I know, the president, must speak to this issue why Tiffany Cross was not given a new contract to continue hosting her show. Her boss, Cesar Conde, over NBC, must speak to this. His boss, Jeff Shale, who's over all of NBC Universal, must speak to this. They all must speak to it. And black folks, this is real simple. You got to make a decision. Or are you going to keep watching?
Is Roland advising us to not vote? Is he advising us to not vote for MSNBC? To not exercise our civic duty? Is he telling us to just stay home? Is he telling us to boycott the election? I'm just asking. He doesn't want us to put in our vote for MSNBC. But Roland, if we don't watch MSNBC, Fox News wins. We don't want Fox News to just steamroll and win, do we? So I'm just saying, Roland, I mean, you don't want us to just give up, do you? I mean, we don't want Fox News to win, do we? Sounds like you're advising us to just stay home and boycott. We wouldn't want Fox News to win.
This. They all, her boss, Cesar Hale, who's over all of NBC Universal, must speak to this. They all must speak to it. And black folks, this is real simple. You got to make a decision. Or are you going to keep watching? What do you hear when Jeff Carr in our promotion, when he says, you need to bring your eyeballs home to Roland Martin Uncultured and the Black Star Network? The reality is this here. We are the most loyal audience they have. Black folks represent, we watch MSNBC more than anybody else.
He was about to try to put a number on it. I would have been interested to know what that number is. I'm not going to dispute him necessarily, but by the way, doesn't this sound just like the damn Democrats? We are the biggest constituencies. We are the folks who watch them more than anybody else. Okay, and what are we getting for it? And by the way, Roland is just now saying something. We've been saying something about this now for over a decade. The new black media has been saying this for over a decade. Over a decade. Roland is just now that he can't get hired, now that he can't get back in, he's just now saying what we've been saying for over a decade while he's been supporting them. Yeah, back when he still thought he had a shot at getting a job.
So, black folks represent, we watch MSNBC more than anybody else. So, we should be saying, this is how y'all gonna do a truth telling? And here's the other question. You hired Tiffany Cross for her opinion. So you getting rid of her because of her opinion? Oh, you didn't realize she was a truth teller when she was trying out? So you gave her a show? Explain that. Explain why would you hire somebody to be an opinion host, but then, well, we don't like it. And keep in mind, I've already heard people say, well, you know, she made the comment on Charlamagne's show about Florida. I used the word dick. Mark Halperin called Obama that on Morning Joe and got suspended. he was back on the air. The only reason he got fired was because of his Me Too problems.
So Roland is basically putting the world on notice that he applied for Tiffany Cross's job. He gave them a few days to think it over. Roland is letting everybody know he applied for Tiffany Cross's job, and NBC said no. If you all want to know why it is he's so blunt, remember, Roland only gets blunt like this when the folk he's trying to get in good with have told him no. Remember Kamala Harris? He was telling all of us, y'all need to shut up about ski wee. You just get up and vote. Remember, that's when he was saying until Miss Ski Wee wouldn't return his phone calls. Then he went on his program and said, well, we've been inviting her on. Her people said she might go ahead and do it, but then she didn't do it. Next thing you know, he starts slow roasting Kamala. Next thing you know, he starts being critical of Kamala. He wasn't before, but once she refused to go on his program, all of a sudden, he started throwing elbows. Well, guess what? MSNBC must have told him, he must have put in his application, and they must have told him, yeah, not you. And now he's like, oh, really? Well, I can do something about that. Well, watch me on my next video. You will rule the day. All right. So he's letting you all know. Somebody sent him the email. Somebody sent him the message. Somebody sent him the DM. Yeah, you're not coming to MSNBC. Now he's like, oh, hell. Let me go ahead and just take the gloves off. So when he starts talking like this, he's letting you know, just like CNN. When CNN told him he wouldn't be back, next thing you know, he's throwing bolos at them. Now he's throwing elbows at MSNBC. I mean, he's going personal with it. Now he's going personal with it. Mark Halpern ain't did nothing to Roland. Mark, did you refuse to give him your coupons for Olive Garden? Because Roland is big mad over here right now. He's not usually like this, except when he's talking at black people. So for him to talk to the white man like this, Mark must have did something he didn't like. But yeah, Roland knows he ain't gonna get the phone call. So now he's just saying, screw it all. We going out like this.
He was back on the air. He was back on the called Obama the word dick. Mark Halperin called Obama that on Morning Joe and got suspended. He was back on the air. The only reason he got fired was because of his Me Too problems. Oh, I'm sorry. Mark Halperin was a white guy who was a favorite of Joe and Mika. Tiffany Cross was never a favorite of Joe and Mika. You never saw her on that show, did you? Which is sort of weird because you get a high-rated show on the weekends. Why would you have them on the morning show? That's the question. And also, you got to be asking the question, why does the Lena Maxwell show get canceled?
Because it was terrible. Or in the words of Charles Barkley, terrible. It was terrible. Why did Zerlina Maxwell's show get canceled? Better question, how the hell did her show get approved? That's the real question. The question isn't why did it get taken off the air. The question is, how the hell did it ever get on? Anybody figured that one out yet?
Was it because of ratings? Did they ever tell her it was because of ratings? Those are some questions that should be answered. And let's see if MSNBC schedules that meeting. I'll let my panel weigh in. Juliana, you first about
Now he's going to talk to Julianne Malveaux, this weird, wacky-looking woman. And she, of course, wants to start off with gender warring and make this a gender war issue. But I want to keep playing it here because I want you to hear what Roland says next.
Decision by MSNBC to part ways with Tiffany Cross.
Well, they're absolutely wrong. Tiffany is a truth teller. And I didn't find her comments offensive at all. I found them actually quite amusing. One time, she said something, I said, shoot, I wish I had said that. She's a smart sister who was having a good show. But Black women take the brunt of so much. And the Mark Halperin example is a great one, but there are many other examples of white boys who can get away with just about anything, except for in this Me Too era, putting their hands on a woman. But they can get away with almost anything else. They can say anything. And it's only when Black women step out there, and more so Black women than Black men, we step out there, suddenly we're under a microscope. As you said, she was hired for her opinion, and she's worked very hard over the course of her career to get to where she is. I'm sure she'll shine somewhere else, but MSNBC needs to be shamed and rolling. Maybe we should start talking about boycott. Maybe that's what we should be doing.
Well, Roland certainly inferred that, didn't he? Black folk, are you going to continue watching? Well, if we're not watching, that's a boycott, isn't it? So Julianne said the obvious thing, but listen to what Roland says next.
We should start talking about boycott. Maybe that's what we should be doing.
The reason I said this beforehand, the reason you...
The reason I...
Maybe that's what we should be doing.
The reason I said this beforehand, the reason you did not hear me say that word is because I follow the model of Operation Breadbasket. Boycott was the last thing that they did because they had to do education up front. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is that we throw boycott out first. My deal is, let's educate our people, enlighten our people. They met with them, and then if the answer wasn't satisfactory, they got back, then they went to the next step. And so the worst thing in the world, that's why you will rarely ever hear me say it. I don't throw that out there because if we have not prime positioned our people here to understand what the issue is, then the boycott actually fails.
All right. So basically, Roland is still holding out a little candle that MSNBC, if you play ball now, I ain't going to sit up here and tell them hit, sing, and destroy you, but I'm here to rattle you. So if you don't play ball, I might have to mess up your program. But if you play ball, I might take the dogs off you if you play ball. So he's letting you know what he really thinks you. He's letting you know what he's angling for. So he's keeping that door open. He's the one who inferred and implied that we should have a boycott. And yet, when it was time to pull the trigger, and Julianne said, well, damn it, let's go ahead and get to boycotting. And he's like, oh, wait a minute now. Let's not be rash. Let's think this over. Don't do anything rash. Wouldn't want you to do nothing rash. All right, well, there you go. But Roland, in a rare moment of honesty and candor, actually set up here and said a couple of things that were correct. Number one thing is, by the way, they don't care about ratings. You don't get paid based on ratings. You get paid if you are the preferred candidate. That's what gets you paid. Being the preferred candidate is what gets you paid. If you're the person we're looking for, that's what gets you paid. That's what gives you your job security. He's finally sitting here telling something resembling the truth. Yeah, it's not about how big of a superstar you are, how many eyeballs you can get and whatnot. They will sacrifice ratings, which you think are tied directly to their income. They're actually only tied indirectly to it. They will sacrifice ratings in order to get the candidate who promotes the agenda. The money is useless. More ratings is useless. More eyeballs are useless if you're giving more eyeballs to somebody who is undermining and destabilizing the agenda. You don't get paid at MSNBC to upset the status quo. You get paid to uphold the status quo, not to overturn it. That's not what you get paid for. Roland Martin was on CNN the most back in the day when he was doing what? When he was doing his most upholding of the status quo. When he was most upholding the status quo, that was when he was in good. Once he was no longer a useful enough tool, once he was no longer the preferred candidate, he never stopped doing what he was doing. It's just one day he fell out of favor. The time of Brazil, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders debate thing certainly didn't help. But they were already inching his big ass toward the door. So when it became clear that he was no longer the preferred candidate, the environment became hostile. But understand, they were already edging him towards the door before they even began. He was no longer the preferred candidate. So I want you all to understand what I'm telling you about this. When I say these kind of things, it's not based on talent. It's not based on ability. It's not based on any of that. If you have the complexion for the protection, then that's what they're looking for. They are looking to maintain the status quo. It shouldn't surprise anybody that at the top of the food chain of all these media companies is a white male. At the top of the food chain of all of them. At NBC, they got their token black female. Professor Black Truth has already done videos about that. They got their token black female, and that is it. She doesn't run anything. She doesn't call any shots. Zaddy sends her a text message, and then she gets up, puts her wig in place, grabs the mic, puts them big old veneers out there, and tells you her version of whatever White Zaddy told her to come out and say. She runs nothing. She sets nothing. She ain't in charge of a damn thing. The folks who pay the bills, the people who cut the checks, the people who cut the throats. That's not her. So that's why Roland feels emboldened. Roland's emboldened. He's emboldened to take shots at her because he knows she don't run nothing. She doesn't run anything. She is just dark skin window dressing. Dark skin window dressing, so he's not afraid of her. There's nobody in that building who's worried about her. If you get fired at MSNBC or NBC News, it's because the white guys told her she's just a messenger. They told her to go fire you. So it looks that so they can go out in public and say, well, that wasn't our decision. That was her decision. She's the one who makes those decisions. We deal with even bigger stuff. Let me tell you something. In the media business, there isn't anything bigger than the people who appear on your damn television screen. There is nothing for a media company that's bigger than the person who's sitting in front of the camera. That's the product that they're selling. They review the people who are on there, what they're doing, the ratings, the advertiser response, audience response, and engagement, subscriptions. They review all of that. So the person on the television, that's the only damn thing that the media company is selling. Of course, you're being mentioned by everybody from the very, very tippy top to the very bottom because you're the product. Tiffany Cross was the product. There's no way this didn't go to the top. There isn't anything bigger to be managed or overseen than the people on the TV screen. There's nothing bigger. So when they tell you that their black henchwoman is the one sliding the knife in between your ribs, just understand the white man behind her handed her the knife and told her, now here's how you slide it in. Let me hold your hand and help you with it like that. She's just sitting there skinning and grinning because she's like, well, better your ass than me. Well, Tiffany, sorry I got to do this to you, but better you than me. Oh, and ain't that cold as hell? They got a black woman taking responsibility and saying, I'm the one who did it. Man, these white supremacists are cold-blooded. Suspected white supremacists. They are cold-blooded, aren't they? They're doing exactly what we said, just like Obama and Kamala Harris and everything else. When they need to, when they want somebody to take the heat, they'll just choose a black person. They chose a dark-skinned black woman and told her, okay, you're gonna be the one who does this. So when folks start asking questions, we don't send them your way. She's sitting over there geeking up over it. I got real powers and authorities. Like, yeah, you got power and authority. Now get out there and tell them what we said. Yes, boss. And away she goes. So just understand, ain't that cold-blooded as hell? When it's time to start purging the black people from the company, they temporarily promote a black woman. Don't worry, she ain't gonna last. But she's just gonna be the one who gets voted off the island last. But they temporarily promote a black female to do the dirty work. They temporarily promote a black female to do the dirty work, to send her out and do all this. That's what they do. And now it's all working out exactly the way they wanted to. You don't hear anybody up here yelling about the white man at the top, but I will also tell you something else. Tiffany Cross, they fired her at the right time. You see, they knew in the middle of an election season, after what she did to go attack black men, don't you know them folk at the top at NBC were like, oh, hell, she ain't got no black support. She's got no black backing. And nobody's going to boycott. Nobody's going to flip a channel. They won't even notice she was gone. She's made so many enemies outside the company. Yeah, go ahead and cut her ass. She gone. Like Zelina Maxwell and all the rest of them. Melissa Harris Perry, Goldie Taylor, all the other professional white ass kissers. And in their cases, they did more than just kiss ass. And they just got a black female and told her, yeah, you can go ahead and cut those. That's it. She's going through that son of a gun like Michael Myers. She's going through there like Michael Myers. And you can't point to a single white man and say he's the one. Because she's standing up and saying, I call the shots, he is. I'm telling you, folks, that's the strategy. So now that you prepared the land and whatnot, here comes Jen Psaki. She gets to come in and soak up all the spoils. While your black folk are being purged from the company. It's not accidental. This is policy. When you see this kind of thing, it is not accidental. It is policy. However, some of you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Black Hispanic program in existence, the only one of its kind on Planet Earth today. And as always, you are welcome to join us. I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. So big shout out to Project Leroy in the Super Chat, my girl Brenda Starr, Chadwick, Roberta Joseph, everybody else here who's contributed. Thank you very much. That's the kind of thing we like to see here because these other folks get a hell of a lot more support than we do. And can you imagine what your kids, my kids, if ever happens, are going to be up against? Generational wealth generated in real time. Generational wealth in real time. That's not a joke. They can do this in real time right in front of you to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars simply for commenting on this, not for even playing the game, for controlling this from top to bottom. So if we are going to have the conversation about reparations, and we will, then I want you all to understand that conversation must be expanded to your internet platforms. It must be expanded to all of them. They have become more powerful than the government. You've got private corporations that have more power and influence than the government. You've got corporations now that they're the ones deciding who gets elected, what will be the policy, what you'll be voting on, what you'll be talking about. When you see that kind of thing, that's how real it gets. The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. You are definitely welcome to give us a call. Let's get caller from area code 267. You're on live with Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Jason.
Hey, Jason, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Jason from
Now,
Philadelphia.
I wanted to tell you about the YouTube thing. You was absolutely right, because I see people with less subscribers than you, or more subscribers than you, less or more, and they don't have half of the audience show up the way you have them show up. They don't have, maybe, like, because you got people out here buying subscribers, then you got other people like this other guy. Now, he's a low grade white guy. He's a white guy from the hood, and he gets more views for the same thing that black people talk about every day. With more channels, he's getting all these views, and the black guys is talking about the same thing about getting out of jail, telling their jail stories. The white guy's getting more views because he betrays to be like the black man in the hood.
Well, I mean, they know about these different genres, you know. That's the kind of thing out here. That Al Prophet guy who is just as agenty as DJ Vlad. You know, there's a bunch of dudes out there in this genre of ex-cons or crimes. You got white men talking about black folk and black drug dealers and whatnot. But they suppress it with black people unless you've been chosen and selected. Another thing that you just said about people buying. Okay, slow down. The next thing is about what you said about people buying followers, you know, buying bots or things like that. And I want you all to understand something. There isn't a single bot on YouTube's website that YouTube's not aware of. There is not a single bot account that YouTube is not already aware of. The ones that spam our comment sections and everything, YouTube knows about every single one. They've got the best computer programmers on the planet working for them. They engineered this site. You have to go through all kinds of processes to get on the site. They know every single phony account on here. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, first order of business, before he even took it over, he wanted to know how many bots there were. He's not guessing. He knows they can find out. He knows they can detect which accounts are real and which ones are phony. They already know. However, as I told you all years ago, there was investigations that were done. I think I saw a story from the New York Times or whatever talking about that, about the fact that it's possible that half of the Twitter accounts are bot accounts. Think about that for a few moments. It is very possible that half of those accounts are bot accounts. However, it allows them to inflate their numbers and look much bigger than they are. Then you come over here to YouTube. All those spam accounts, that's not accidental. That's policy. I'll let you have the last word.
All right, Jason. All right, now, I was going to finish saying that, but I wanted to let you talk because I like your importance on everything that you talk about. But you have more people showing up for you, and you got less subscribers than people that I see 100,000, 200,000. And I'm like, they're buying it because I even thought Kevin Samuels was buying his subscribers because if you look at his channel now, it's not growing rapidly like it was before. You know, I'm not saying that he didn't have high subscribers, but I'm just saying people will buy these subscribers because in this world, you got people that they just believe in numbers. They don't know how you got the numbers. That's not important.
Well, what I'll say is, I mean, if his numbers are not continuing to grow up, or what I'll say is, dying kind of.
If you go look at the channel,
dying will kind of do that to you. But thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yeah, his numbers are probably not going up because dying interrupts your regularly scheduled programming. So, in any case, here, would anybody like to contribute to the brother's 9-volt battery fund? Well, we're going to take a contribution for his 9-volt battery fund. Because he's right up under that thing too. So he's in the middle of the struggle. So a contribution for the 9-volt battery fund, we can get him hooked up. Call from area code 415. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Don calling San Francisco.
Don from San Francisco. What's on your mind?
Hey, Jason. Should we be surprised the moment part? We pretty much know, anytime he opens up his mouth, the crap's just going to come out, just depending on the topic of the day. And it's always going to be about, I got to protect myself so I can try to get back into the big house. But as it relates to this whole social media thing, man, shadow banning, eliminating subscribers, blocking alerts, that's just, these two that I'm talking about. But then the other one, they allow them to steal your intellectual property and profit off of it, and then be able to go into their media and get endorsements and sponsorships and all this thing. This is all to protect people's ego who are mediocre, and that's the best they can do. That's been their story from the beginning. Mediocrity. That's who they are. That's how they're going to finish the game, because our name keeps coming up and up and up and up and up and up, and there's nothing they can do. The kings and queens and princesses and princes are rising back up to their power where they belong.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. When you get caller from area code 626, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Mr. Black, this is Mr. Wilson calling. I wanted to thank you again.
Where are you calling from, Mr. Wilson?
I'm sorry, pardon me. Champaign, Illinois.
Champaign, Illinois, and what's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to thank you for bringing this up. This is something that has been actually directly affecting me, because even when I put out things, I actually put in the thread, I just tried to put up a couple verses from the Bible about this anti-Semitism, etc., and they absolutely blocked me off. And one other thing with that, when you have like black-led shows, there are a couple other shows that have black people at the head of this thing, and they're actually executive producing. You see that there is this whitening after they become popular. So this is something that, as black people, we have to become aware of and continue to be diligent about, because ultimately, and Paul Mooney said it best. He said, you got to watch out. If you get too popular, they will come and take you. And I'm glad, brother, they haven't taken you. And keep doing the work, and I'm proud of you, brother.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 201. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, how's it going, Jason? This is Tahuti. I'm calling from DC.
Tahuti from DC. What's on your mind?
So I just want to, thank you for bringing this to light. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but there is a lawsuit happening at the moment from 2020. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the DHS leaks. So, for anybody who's listening, pretty much there's a back door that they found in Twitter where politicians and other agencies can just go in and silence and block any.
Well, the real problem is they don't need a back door. I mean, literally, the police departments can make a phone call and have your live feed cut. They can get your account suspended. You don't even need a politician in a back door, bro. There's a phone number they can call. So it's not even that complicated. Right. They can just make a phone call. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller here, code 309. You're on live with Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, thanks for Black. This is John. I'm calling from Peoria, Illinois.
John from Peoria. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just want to throw this out here real quick. Hey, the people that always call in, they should know by now. They've been listening to you long enough. They should be saying their name and where they from. They should know that by now. But outside of that, hey, we got them on the ropes, and we're gonna keep coming at them. Hey, the truth is out there, and it's just we're gonna get stronger and stronger. We just gotta stay together. We got them. They on the ropes. They scared. They should be scared. That's all I gotta say. Be one.
Black first, brother. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 740. You're on live with Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. This is Barry over from Patriot, Ohio.
All right, Barry from Patriot, Ohio. What's on your mind?
I was just calling about the YouTube situation. I remember seeing the other day a YouTube short about a channel with these 6 white guys that met through college. They were roommates, and they created the channel Trick Shotting. And now they're at the point where they're about to open a Disney World style amusement park from all the money they have raised on the channel. And it's not even like a specific talent that made them really popular. It's just trick shotting.
Well, I mean, certainly, there's an element of that to it here. So, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get a caller from area code 470. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, caller from area code 470 is reloading his crack pipe, so we'll go ahead and let him get back to that. But just understand here that there's a reason why I bring this up. This is they're creating these entities out of thin air. They're boosting them to the hilt. They're giving them all the resources that they need. We've only named a few. There's literally probably 200 or 300 others. We're not really talking about millions of dollars. Truth be told, we're really talking about billions. If you really want to go ahead and quantify this net worth, we're really talking about billions now, not millions. Not millions. Let me get a caller from a country code 525. You're on live with Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Let me get a caller from a country code 525.
Okay. Caller from wherever that's from there, he is busy watching the Twilight Zone. So we're going to go ahead and let them do that. And the callers are kind of being funny here tonight, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Shout out to Jerome M. in the chat room there. Thank you very much. I think we can actually go and buy him a whole battery, maybe one of those door alarm systems while we're at it there. We wouldn't want to get caught off the guards. We can go buy him a house full of smoke detectors. Now we can put more than one room, so we'll be good to go there. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight, folks. Going forward, there's a reason why these people have the wherewithal to go ahead and say those things. There should be an alternative apparatus, but that alternative apparatus has been artificially handicapped. And in its place, you got a whole battalion of individuals that over the past decade, they've been gamed up, they've been papered up, they've been boosted up. They are media conglomerates in and of themselves. Do you all understand? Joe Rogan with $100 million, he is a media conglomerate of his own. Think about that for a few moments. Pat McAfee and the WWE, Logan Paul and Jake Paul and the WWE. We talk about these partnerships and whatnot to the slow bus kids talking about Kanye West don't need nothing. Let me tell you something. The folks who are really taking off, they get mobbed up and associated with other entities who put you on the fast lane. They put you on the fast track. Trying to pull it by yourself, that's the slow lane. You want to be in the fast lane, you want to be on the fast track, get mobbed up with bigger entities. They're like, hey, we're going to cut you in for a piece of the action. We're going to get you out that penny in the ass YouTube thing you're doing. We're going to go ahead and show you how real money moves. And there's hundreds of them now. They've moved beyond just observing. They are now trying to shape the ideas and the thoughts and the opinions. They're now trying to shape the way you see things. That's not a joke. That's a clear and present danger. And going forward, conversations about who we talk about, what we talk about, whether or not we can play, whether or not you should be heard, because just understand they're coming to the NBA guys now, but then they start creeping over into other things. They've already been shut down on channels and everything else, and creep over into other things. Not a joke. When we discuss reparations, in the context of a California or somewhere else, when we discuss reparations, this is what we need to be discussing about. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Make sure you are still subscribed. Join us each and every time that we are here. We are the Black Media. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go ahead and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War, all available on DVD, streaming on Amazon. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to send a shout out here to everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. Big shout out to Jerome M. and everyone who is contributing live or recorded. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is strategy.
Breaking news tonight, the rare November storm barreling up the East Coast. The remnants of Hurricane Nicole bringing heavy rain and dangerous weather conditions from North Carolina up to Maine after leaving a deadly trail of destruction in Florida. Homes washed into the ocean, neighborhoods flooded. Our team in the storm zone has a full forecast ahead. Also tonight, 3 days after the midterms, control of Congress remains undecided. Hundreds of thousands of ballots still to count in Arizona and Nevada Senate races. Donald Trump under pressure to delay an announcement next week, what a top advisor says he'll do. The celebration in the streets as Ukrainian troops enter Kherson after Russia retreated. A major setback for Putin's forces. The surge in flu and RSV hitting children hard. At least 6 states with pediatric hospital beds 90% full. Our NBC News exclusive, the untold story behind the first major battle of the Afghanistan war from the CIA veteran who survived it. Veterans Day marking the 40th anniversary of the war, following more than 58,000 Americans in the ultimate sacrifice.
This is NBC News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, and thank you for being with us, and a special thank you to our veterans on this important day. It was a Category 1 storm, but the impact of Nicole ranked far higher for Floridians who saw their homes swept off their foundations in a rare November hurricane. Tonight, evacuees from Florida's East Coast yearning to return to their properties are among those declared unsafe to enter after a pounding storm surge as high as 5 feet eroded the sand beneath them. While we are still officially in hurricane season, the destruction from Nicole this late in the year took many off guard. Tonight, the now weakened storm has exited Florida, but is being felt by millions of others. Heavy rain and tornado threats on a track tonight that extends from North Carolina to New England. Kerry Sanders joining us now with the latest. Kerry?
Officials say just here in Volusia County, damage estimates exceed $480 million, and that's just the property, not the contents inside people's homes. Today, residents who evacuated got a chance to come back to see this catastrophe for themselves. Today, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis visited the hardest hit areas. As the governor toured, police posting "Do Not Enter" signs on 24 condos and hotels, and also on 40 homes. Where do you live?
I'm here.
And you can't go home.
I cannot go home.
Deborah Taylor, unsure when or even if she'll ever get back into her condo. How do you feel right now?
Numb, scared, but hopeful.
The 5-foot storm surge, combined with an unusually high tide, undermined foundations built on sand. The waves crashed down, smashing anything in its path. But what no one saw was the undertow, sucking the sand out from underneath the buildings. The question, are the pilings deep enough to still support the structures?
During Nicole, deep in one of the building's underground garages, seawater driven by those waves began to wash in. David Marsh works at one of the now closed resorts.
This whole backyard was my pride and joy. I enjoyed taking care of all the way down to every last blade. My pool, lounge chairs, canopies, and this is absolutely heartbreaking to me.
Adding to the safety worries, last year a 12-story oceanfront condo in Surfside, Florida collapsed, killing 98 people. Forensic engineers say the Surfside disaster is now part of any calculation.
I would think, especially after Surfside, that everyone would err on the side of caution.
By state law, newer buildings are not allowed to have seawalls, only sand dunes. But those dunes that were here washed away during Hurricane Ian 6 weeks ago.
Where was the dune?
So Carrie, right there where you see the outline on the building, that's where the natural dune.
That unpainted area.
Absolutely.
And then the dune washed away, and so the natural protection was gone.
Absolutely.
It's now a dangerous ways to get personal property.
This has been an inch since we were here an hour ago.
Inspectors taking pictures to document damage, warning residents don't take the risk.
The worst houses aren't safe, and people need to be aware that things can still collapse.
Tonight, in the storm zone, fears that what was once is now gone forever. Terry Sanders, NBC News, Daytona Beach Shores.
A frightening picture there, and Nicole is still bringing some dangerous weather tonight. Much of the East Coast now getting drenched by heavy rains. Bill Cairns is tracking it. What are you looking at?
Well, we had flash flooding during the day today in the mountains in North Carolina, even a tornado warning in downtown Richmond. The tornado threat is now a little bit lower. The Northeast is dealing with a lot of problems with airport delays and problems on the roads from the heavy rain moving through. And overnight, the winds are going to pick up too in areas of the Northeast. So Philadelphia, New York, up to Boston, airport problems. You'll hear that wind howling early in the morning, especially coastal sections of New England, maybe isolated power outages when you wake up. The timing of this, it's not going to impact a lot of your weekend. That's the good news. By about 8 a.m., the storm was out of New York City, just a little bit left in Boston. Then Saturday afternoon, Lester, it gets windy and cooler as we say goodbye to Nicole.
All right, Bill Cairns, thank you. With the storm hitting here at home, President Biden is taking on climate change at a global summit in Egypt, where today he announced new initiatives to cut greenhouse emissions. But as Kelly Cobiello reports, some say he should be doing even more.
Tonight, President Biden welcomed back to the world stage, touting the biggest ever U.S. investment in green energy.
We're racing forward to do our part to avert the climate hell that the UN Secretary General so passionately warned about.
And vowing to lead on climate change. The president announcing a new EPA rule to make oil and gas companies find and fix leaks of methane gas. A powerful polluter scientists say traps 80 times more heat than CO2. His speech briefly interrupted by American activists calling for an end to fossil fuels after a report this week shows carbon emissions in the U.S. are on track to hit a new record this year, rising 1.5%, mostly due to air travel. What do we do about it?
The president said from day one that we were back. He didn't say the problem was really solved overnight.
The EPA chief promising more regulations to come on cars, trucks, and coal plants. But activists from around the world, including the U.S., say America is not doing enough.
Biden could take this opportunity, if he wants to be the climate president that he says he is, to declare a climate emergency today.
And tonight, developing countries devastated by climate disasters like floods and drought are demanding that big polluters like the U.S. help foot the bill. Lester?
All right, Kelly, thank you. Still no resolution tonight in two key races that could decide which party controls the Senate, as former President Trump appears set to announce his 2024 run. Kristen Welker has the latest.
Tonight, 3 days after the election, officials in Arizona and Nevada still have not counted hundreds of thousands of ballots, leaving control of Congress up in the air, awaiting the results in those two states and in battleground Georgia, which has entered a runoff. In Nevada, Republican Adam Laxalt has a narrow lead over Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. Laxalt saying he's confident.
Well, we feel really, really strongly about where this race is heading. She does not have the amount of votes left
to be able to catch us.
And still no winner in Arizona, where Democratic Senator Mark Kelly is in the lead. Meanwhile, Republicans seem poised to take back control of the House with a slimmer margin than expected. Top Republican Kevin McCarthy says a win is a win.
What was our mission? To win the majority, to stop Biden's agenda, and fire Nancy Pelosi. All of that is accomplished.
Some Republicans blaming former President Trump's endorsed candidates for the lack of a red wave. Tonight, a top advisor to the former president, who earlier counseled Mr. Trump to delay his 2024 announcement until after the Georgia runoff, now saying he is going forward with it anyway.
President Trump is going to announce on Tuesday that he's running for president, and it's going to be a very professional, very buttoned-up announcement.
And Kristen, there are several prominent Republicans who are criticizing Mr. Trump's decision to go ahead with this announcement.
Lester, that's right. New Hampshire's Republican Governor Chris Sununu called it a, quote, silly decision that could harm Herschel Walker's chances in Georgia. And privately, some Trump advisors tell me they've also urged him to wait, but say he's not listening to that view. Lester.
Kristen Welker tonight, thank you. Growing concern around the country this evening about two viruses hitting children hard with no end in sight. Maggie Vespa now on what families need to know.
Tonight, America's triple-demic fears are mounting. The flu and RSV spreading fast as COVID still looms and hospitals are filling up.
Look, there's so many kids who are sick.
Ira and Emily Jenkins brought their 10-month-old Nora to a North Carolina hospital when she began having trouble breathing.
You walked into the ER, and what did you see? What was it like? Well, when I go in the ER, there was a line. There was like 4 other parents in line with their babies.
In 6 states and Washington, D.C., at least 90% of pediatric hospital beds are full. Colorado's governor expanding a COVID-19 disaster declaration to also cover RSV and influenza, freeing up state and federal funds.
Things are really bad right now.
Dr. David Kimberlin works at a children's hospital in Alabama.
Have you ever seen children's hospitals running out of beds like this?
None of us have seen the situation the way it is now. This is not normal.
And now, concern a COVID wildcard this winter could further strain the system.
If you add an Omicron surge to the current RSV surge, there's no place for it. There's no place to put another 50 kids that need to be admitted to the hospital.
With less than 2 weeks until Thanksgiving, doctors are pleading with people to get their flu and COVID shots updated, adding there's still time for that stronger protection to kick in before the holidays. Lester?
All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you. In 60 seconds, jubilation in Ukraine after Russia withdraws its forces from a key city, and the secret heroin mission at the start of America's longest war. A former CIA agent speaks about it for the first time. Ukraine is claiming a historic victory tonight after Russia announced it completed its withdrawal from Kherson. Celebrations in the streets as Ukrainian troops move in to retake the critical southern city that was the first to fall when the invasion began in February. The retreat, a major setback for Vladimir Putin's war effort. Now to an NBC News exclusive on this Veterans Day. It's been more than a year since America's longest war came to an end. Tonight, Richard Engel takes us back to the beginning, with the untold story of the first major battle of the Afghanistan war from the CIA veteran who barely made it out alive. And now he has a new mission.
Hey, buddy. It was just after the horrors of the 9/11 attacks. An elite group of CIA operatives called Team Alpha was dropped into Afghanistan. CIA officer and linguist David Tyson and CIA paramilitary Mike Spann had been sent to this fortress to interrogate roughly 400 foreign fighters taken captive by U.S. allies. Tyson is now talking about that secret mission on camera for the first time.
Was the thinking that someone might have information
Oh,
about
certainly.
the next 9/11?
Yes. And they all said, we gave bayat to Iraq, and we are Al-Qaeda.
That defiantly silent prisoner turned out to be a young Californian, John Walker Lynn, later labeled the American Taliban. The prisoners should have been disarmed, but some managed to conceal their weapons, waiting to strike.
One of the guards runs towards me and Farsi says, Farak.
And then I hear Mike's voice. I go to Mike, and Mike's shot, and then there's men on top of him. I'm trying to take Mike's rifle, and I shoot 4 of them, and I take Mike's rifle.
Shoot 4 of them?
Yes. And with Mike's rifle, I turn around and begin shooting the guys who are now charged.
It's not legal anymore.
No. No.
Mike Spann dies fighting, the first combat casualty in the war. Tyson escapes to another part of the fort.
I just run across this field, and when I'm running across this field, I am certain that I'm going to.
He stumbles upon a German TV crew.
Mortar rounds are coming at us. RPGs are coming at us.
Tyson commandeers the reporter's phone to call the CIA for reinforcements.
No, we do not control the fort. We control one end. I think it's the north end. There's hundreds dead here, at least. I don't know how many Americans are.
Then Tyson leads a daring escape across an exposed roof.
We saw men get shot doing that same thing.
Tyson climbs over a parapet and down a 60-foot wall.
And then we do one by one. We fall down the wall, and we run out to the road. I use my empty rifle to stop a vehicle. He says, don't shoot.
He is later recognized by the CIA for saving lives. The war in Afghanistan ends in chaos. Now, the Taliban are back in power and seeking revenge.
You'll see him get shot.
True. Tyson receives daily messages from former Afghan allies.
It's just so distressing because they're forgotten.
He and other members of Team Alpha, including Spann's widow Shannon, have been working to help Afghan partners and their families escape the Taliban.
These are people who helped us, worked with us.
They see this new mission as a way to honor Spann's legacy. Richard Engel, NBC News.
A gripping piece of untold history. Let's take a break. The new warning about e-bikes coming up and batteries that can explode during charging. It seems they're everywhere these days, e-bikes and e-scooters zooming around city streets. But tonight, fire officials are sounding the alarm about the popular devices because of the growing number of injuries linked to them. Here's Emily Aketa.
It's a staggeringly close call when charging e-bikes suddenly catch fire, nearly engulfing a